planet Earth, a world of astounding beauty and immense cruelty. From the unforgiving deserts to the lush rainforests, life in all its forms struggles for survival. Yet, amidst the animal kingdom's raw brutality, a different kind of predator has emerged in the annals of history, the Dictator. These figures, often charismatic and driven by ideologies that promise utopia, rise to power on waves of popular support or through cunning political maneuvering. But their reigns, invariably marked by an insatiable thirst for control, leave behind a trail of unimaginable suffering and death. In this series, we will delve into the lives and regimes of 6 of the most lethal dictators in human history. We will examine their paths to power, the ideologies they espoused, and the methods they employed to maintain their iron grip on their nations. Prepare yourself, for the stories we are about to uncover are not for the faint of heart. They are tales of human cruelty and suffering on a scale that is difficult to comprehend. Yet they are essential stories, for they remind us of the fragility of peace and the ever-present potential for darkness within humanity itself. Our journey into the heart of darkness begins in the aftermath of World War I, in a defeated and humiliated Germany. The nation was crippled by economic depression and political instability, creating fertile ground for extremist ideologies. Among them was the National Socialist German Workers' Party, led by Adolf Hitler. He exploited the anxieties of the German people, promising national revival and economic prosperity. Through impassioned speeches and propaganda, Hitler and the Nazi Party grew in popularity, seizing control in 1933. With absolute power firmly in his grasp, Hitler unleashed a reign of terror that would engulf Europe in flames and leave millions dead. Fueled by a toxic ideology of racial purity and Aryan supremacy, the Nazi regime systematically persecuted and murdered millions of Jews, Roma, homosexuals, the disabled, and anyone deemed an enemy of the state. Concentration camps, those grim symbols of Nazi barbarity, were established across Germany and occupied territories. Within their barbed wire fences, prisoners were subjected to unimaginable horrors: starvation, torture, medical experimentation, and mass extermination. Gas chambers designed to efficiently eliminate human life on an industrial scale became chilling instruments of death. The screams of the innocent, silenced by the hiss of Zyklon B, served as a grim testament to the depravity that human beings are capable of inflicting upon one another. While the exact number of victims remains unknown, historians estimate that the Nazi regime was responsible for the deaths of approximately 17 million civilians during the Holocaust, a genocide that stands as a stark warning against the dangers of unchecked hatred and intolerance. From the ashes of the Russian Revolution, a new empire emerged, ruled by Joseph Stalin. Born into poverty in Gori, Stalin's rise was marked by ruthless ambition. After Lenin's death in 1924, he outmaneuvered rivals, becoming the Soviet Union's dictator. His reign was marked by paranoia and absolute control, transforming the Soviet Union into a totalitarian state. The NKVD, his secret police, arrested, tortured, and executed millions, including party members and ordinary citizens. Forced confessions led to imprisonment in the Gulag, a network of labor camps in Siberia. The Gulag, a chilling acronym for the main administration of corrective labor camps, became synonymous with the horrors of Stalin's reign of terror. Within its sprawling network of camps, prisoners endured unimaginable conditions: starvation, disease, overwork, and brutal treatment at the hands of their guards. Millions perished from exhaustion, malnutrition, or exposure to the harsh elements. Others were executed outright, their bodies disposed of in mass graves that served as grim reminders of the human cost of Stalin's tyranny. The Gulag was not merely a system of punishment, it was an integral part of Stalin's economic plans. Prisoners, stripped of their humanity and reduced to mere units of labor, were forced to work on colossal infrastructure projects, extract resources from inhospitable environments, and contribute to the industrialization of the Soviet Union. The human cost of Stalin's ambition was staggering. While precise figures remain elusive, Historians estimate that between 15 and 20 million people perished in the Gulag, or as a result of Stalin's policies, making him one of the most prolific killers in human history. From the chaotic ashes of the Second World War, a new threat to humanity emerged, not from the battlefields of Europe, but from the ancient heart of China. This is the story of Mao Zedong, a man driven by ideology and an insatiable thirst for power. Mao's rise began during the Chinese Civil War, a brutal conflict that pitted his communist forces against the nationalist government. His charisma and promises of a utopian society resonated deeply with the impoverished peasantry, propelling him to victory in 1949. With the declaration of the People's Republic of China, Mao embarked on a series of radical social and economic reforms, collectively known as the Great Leap Forward. This ambitious program aimed to rapidly transform China from an agrarian society into an industrial powerhouse. However, Mao's utopian vision proved disastrous. Forced collectivization of agriculture led to widespread famine, decimating the population. Millions perished from starvation, their bodies left to rot in the fields they once tilled. The catastrophic failure of the Great Leap Forward did little to diminish Mao's grip on power. Instead, he initiated the Cultural Revolution, a decade of political and social upheaval that sought to purge China of any perceived opposition to his rule. Students, whipped into a frenzy by Mao's rhetoric, formed the Red Guard, a paramilitary group tasked with rooting out counter-revolutionaries. Intellectuals, teachers, and anyone deemed a threat to Mao's authority were targeted, subjected to public humiliation, imprisonment, and often execution. The Cultural Revolution plunged China into chaos, destroying its cultural heritage and leaving an indelible scar on the national psyche. Traditional values were abandoned, ancient artifacts destroyed, and generations of intellectuals silenced. By the time of Mao's death in 1976, an estimated 40 to 70 million people had perished under his rule, victims of starvation, persecution, and execution. His legacy remains a chilling reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the human cost of ideological extremism. From the killing fields of Cambodia, a new horror emerged, a regime so brutal, so detached from human compassion that it shocked even the most hardened observers of genocide. This is the story of Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge's reign of terror. Pol Pot, a man shrouded in secrecy and driven by a twisted interpretation of Marxist ideology, sought to create an agrarian utopia in Cambodia. He believed that only by purging the nation of its past and transforming its people into obedient peasants could true equality be achieved. In 1975, the Khmer Rouge, under Pol Pot's leadership, seized control of Cambodia, unleashing a campaign of terror that would decimate the nation. Cities were emptied, their inhabitants forced into labor camps in the countryside. Money was abolished, education outlawed, and religion suppressed. Cambodia was thrust back to year zero, a term used by the Khmer Rouge to signify the complete eradication of the past and the creation of a new, ideologically pure society. Anyone deemed an enemy of the revolution, intellectuals, artists, religious leaders, even those who wore glasses, faced torture and execution. The Cambodian countryside became a vast network of killing fields, places where the Khmer Rouge carried out their systematic extermination of anyone deemed a threat to their regime. Men, women, and children were bludgeoned to death, often with crude tools, to avoid wasting precious ammunition. The killing fields of Cheung Ek stand as a chilling testament to the Khmer Rouge's barbarity. Here, the remains of nearly 9,000 victims have been exhumed, their skulls stacked high as a macabre reminder of the horrors inflicted upon the Cambodian people. The Khmer Rouge's reign of terror lasted for 4 long years, during which time an estimated 1.5 to 2 million people perished, nearly a quarter of Cambodia's population. The regime's brutality left an indelible scar on the nation's psyche, its legacy haunting Cambodia to this day. Pol Pot's regime stands as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ideology and the fragility of human civilization. The killing fields of Cambodia serve as a solemn warning to future generations, a testament to the human capacity for both great evil and extraordinary resilience. Born in 1912, during a time of Japanese occupation of Korea, Kim Il-sung's early life was shaped by political turmoil and resistance movements. His involvement in communist activities and guerrilla warfare against the Japanese during the 1930s marked the beginning of his path towards leadership. Following World War II and the division of Korea, Kim Il-sung emerged as the leader of the Soviet-backed Democratic People's Republic of Korea, also known as North Korea. With the support of the Soviet Union, he consolidated his power, establishing a one-party state with himself at the helm. Kim Il-sung's rule was marked by an iron grip on power and the implementation of a strict communist ideology known as Juche, emphasizing national self-reliance. He developed a powerful cult of personality, portraying himself as the infallible great leader of the Korean people. Through propaganda, repression, and the systematic elimination of political opponents, Kim Il-sung solidified his control over North Korea, shaping it into the isolated and authoritarian state it is today. His legacy continues to cast a long shadow over the nation and its people. Kim Il-sung's regime was responsible for widespread human rights abuses and the deaths of an estimated 1.6 million North Koreans. These deaths were a result of political purges, forced labor camps, and a devastating famine. One of the most notorious features was the system of political prison camps, known as Kwanlee-so. These camps held hundreds of thousands of prisoners, including political dissidents and their families. In these camps, prisoners endured unimaginable cruelty, subjected to torture, starvation, and forced labor. Saddam Hussein's ascent to power was a study in brutality and cunning. Born into poverty in 1937, he rose through the ranks of the Ba'ath Party, a pan-Arab nationalist movement that seized control of Iraq in 1968. Hussein quickly established himself as a ruthless enforcer, eliminating rivals and consolidating his grip on the country. In 1979, Hussein declared himself president of Iraq, unleashing a reign of terror that would last for decades. He maintained a vast and brutal security apparatus employing torture, disappearances, and mass executions to crush any opposition. His paranoia knew no bounds, targeting ethnic minorities, religious groups, and even members of his own party. Hussein's regime was marked by a series of devastating wars and internal conflicts. He launched a bloody 8-year war with Iran in 1980, fueled by territorial disputes and a desire to consolidate his regional power. This conflict resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people on both sides. In 1990, Hussein invaded Kuwait, triggering the Gulf War and international condemnation. His brutal occupation of Kuwait and the subsequent US-led military intervention further isolated Iraq and plunged the country deeper into turmoil. Saddam Hussein's regime was responsible for the deaths of an estimated 2 million people, both within Iraq and in neighboring countries. His methods of repression were varied and brutal, employing chemical weapons, mass executions, and torture on a horrific scale. One of the most chilling examples of Hussein's brutality was the Halabja chemical attack in 1988. During the Iran-Iraq War, Iraqi forces used chemical weapons against the Kurdish town of Halabja, killing an estimated 5,000 civilians, most of them women and children. This horrific attack stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of Hussein's reign. Hussein's preferred methods of execution reflected his cruel and calculated nature. Hangings, often carried out in public, served as a gruesome warning to potential dissenters. He also employed firing squads, poisonings, and even the use of industrial shredders to dispose of his victims. The reasons behind Hussein's brutality were complex and multifaceted. He was driven by a lust for power, a deep-seated paranoia, and a desire to maintain control over a fractured and diverse nation. His legacy remains a stark reminder of the human capacity for evil and the devastating consequences of unchecked power. From the killing fields of Cambodia to the gulags of the Soviet Union, the dictators in this series represent dark chapters in human history. Their reigns of terror left an indelible mark, claiming millions of lives. The legacy of their crimes continues to haunt us. Their stories remind us of the fragility of peace. We must remember the victims and work to prevent such atrocities. Honor their memory by building a future free from such horrors.